Okay, welcome to episode 2. I meant episode 1 of AirWave because the first one definitely didn't get corrupted. I'm Pravir.
I'm Joseph.
And I'm Steven.
Okay, we'd like to take a few moments first and thank the veterans because they have made loads of sacrifices, and honestly, we wouldn't be here expressing our freedom of press and speech and all of the other freedoms that we have been given as American citizens. And do you guys want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone who's served or has family that has served, because I think everyone knows that it's not just the one person making the sacrifice, it's their entire family.
Yeah, exactly. I have a brother who's serving in the United States Army, and it's tough not being able to see him and stuff, but, he's out there representing.
And today our two topics are the rise of nationalism in the world and the NBA Finals. So, in the past few years, you're beginning to see a lot of nationalistic leaders being elected, such as Netanyahu in Israel, Duterte in the Philippines. You can argue Trump is the same way, and then Narendra Modi in India. And most of Europe, especially with Brexit, has also went the same way with nationalism, with a nationalistic leader, and or a nationalistic wing. The definition of nationalism is the identification with one's own nation and support for its interests. And I'm all for this, but the way I see it is that nationalism leads to ethnocentrism. I mean, a prime example of this is India. You have Narendra Modi recently being re-elected, and his party wants to put India first, which would be a great idea for the people of India. However, his party also has called for registries of the minorities of the country, and they have escalated tensions with Pakistan because it being a Muslim-majority country. And then you can say the same thing in the United States. I mean, not to the same extent, but you have in the last 3 years, according to the FBI, there's been a rise of hate crimes in the country, and it almost creates a country where it's not necessarily extremely safe for the minority. Well, not with the United States, but like other countries, that the minority simply isn't extremely safe like they should be.
So I agree that when you get super nationalist and start excluding other populations of people, as in the minorities, anywhere, it's definitely gone too far. But I think to lead a country in the first place, you have to be nationalist to a certain extent, because you have to be doing what you think is best for the country and have their best regards in mind. But obviously, once you push it too far, the country's made up of everyone, so excluding certain groups is the best for the country, obviously.
I definitely have to disagree there about being a nationalist, having that as a requirement to be the leader of a country. I think, you should put your country's concerns at the forefront to an extent. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If every leader of every country was some sort of hyper-nationalist and said, Poland first, America first, and they said this, it would be chaos. We would not have United Nations. We wouldn't have these international organizations because they wouldn't care about the overall good of the country. And as far as nationalism goes and the rise of it, I think it's a very, very scary prospect, especially in Europe, when you have these factions in the UK and in Poland and in Austria and in Hungary, all these countries becoming increasingly conservative, and these conservative leaders that really, in my opinion, don't seem to care about their people and really care more about fostering these old, more traditional conservative ideas like ethnocentrism and racism and just being bad people. Like in Poland, when you see the Conservative Party, they took power, and then what did they do? They consolidated their power illegally. They kicked out the judges, they kicked out people from multiple legislative positions and put in conservatives illegally against the Polish constitution, and when the EU stepped in to stop it, they said, we might just leave. And in the case of the UK, you have a Conservative Party that ran on the platform of leaving the Union, but still has not left. And has had now 2 prime ministers resign because of their failures. They don't care about Brexit. They don't care about the people in the UK. They care about winning and pushing other policies.
And I agree with you there, but the huge thing about Brexit, you always saw, I remember like 3 years ago when it happened, I was watching BBC, and you have all these people like, in their good old British accent going, we want our country back, we want these immigrants to leave, and all this BS, because in reality, they're the ones that started immigration with imperialism. So it's total BS that they think that it's a good idea. And on top of that, Brexit is ruining their economy. Because economic reports have shown, once they leave, their economy is going to just dwindle. But they don't care because they want their country back.
It's terrible. I think they could leave right now, right? They could do a no deal and leave. And that's what the people want. But the conservatives don't want to give it to them because they know it's a bad idea. The nationalists ran on a bad idea to get elected and now will not go through with it because they know it's bad. And I think that's something you see with a lot of nationalist parties around the world, is that they run on these ideas that they know are bad, and they grab the attention of other bad, racist people who say, oh, we need to get rid of these immigrants, we need to get rid of these. And they see, leaving the EU as a stepping stone to doing that.
Don't you see, not fulfilling campaign promises or empty promises? I mean, that's just not centric to one party. That kind of happens everywhere, let's be honest.
I mean, that's very true, but the way I see it is with nationalistic parties. The rise of nationalism is something that's extremely bad for the world because it's putting more countries at odds. I mean, India, Pakistan, I mentioned earlier. You have the United States and China with their trade war that's going on right now. You have the Philippines just going against everyone, just any leader they can go against. And you're seeing an escalation in problems that it can... I mean, it's not going to lead to World War III, I don't think, because nukes are simply too dangerous to use. That no one's going to be willing to use them. However, do we really want to live in a Cold War-esque era? I mean, and that's what I think that's where nationalism is taking us.
So, what you're saying, what would your solution be? Just trying to switch to a more globalist mentality, or...
I think that's it, right? Moving forward with the United Nations, giving the United Nations some power, maybe consolidating the EU a bit more, making a more world government rather than, hi, I'm from America, hi, I'm from Poland, hi, I'm from China,
But don't you think a world government comprised of every country, certainly there's going to be your typical superpowers that you've had for centuries are going to have way more say than the others, and then you're going to have a bunch of underrepresented countries.
Yeah, I mean that is a problem, the concerns of the few being overshadowed by the concerns of the many, but that's democracy.
So you think most of Africa should be overshadowed for the well-being of Europe?
Africa has some of the most, the most growing population in the world, right?
And a lot of resources.
Yeah, exactly.
But you think they're going to have as much say if we had a globalist government?
It just depends how it's set up, I guess. I mean, in the UN, it's the Security Council and the delegates.
The UN president right now, I can't remember what his name is African. However, the UN president has no power whatsoever. And, no, it's not.
Yeah,
that's wrong.
Yeah, I know, because it says New Brunswick, that's not the UN.
It's the big thing is, though, I think the solution is that what we need to do is I don't think a world government's going to work. Steven's right there. However, I do think that we can't be extremely nationalistic because it leads to us being extremely one-sided towards race, in race.
Yeah.
So having a middle ground and making sure you keep global interests in mind.
Yeah.
When doing things like this, when it comes to, I can't really think of anything specific right now. Something like you have, during the Cold War, you had the whole idea of mutual assured destruction. If we had an extremely nationalistic president during the Cold War, I think it's easy to say we would have probably went to war just to flex on Russia or something. But with people keeping in mind that we had mutual assured destruction was imminent. It was gonna happen if we went into a nuclear war.
Yeah.
And I think even on the nation scale, nationalism is bad. Case in point, the United States. Now, whether you want to call Donald Trump a nationalistic president is besides the fact, but the important thing is that he inspires nationalism, and he inspires nationalists, and he, in a way, facilitates these alt-right groups and these hate groups, and because a lot of them take pride in Donald Trump being president, for the fact that he is conservative, and he's out there, and he says a lot of crazy things. And I think,
you saw David Duke, is he currently the Grand Wizard or is he ex? I don't know what he is. He was the leader of the KKK though. But you saw him endorsing Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He said he told KKK members, he said, go for it. This is our guy. And Donald Trump basically said, if I can get an endorsement, that's great. And he didn't
Exactly.
care. He didn't care.
and I think it's that's something I find really interesting is that people like Donald Trump and other conservative leaders are a lot more hesitant to withhold their condemnations of these hate groups and these other alt-right groups than the left party or the left.
Well,
left side.
think about it. The left would not be getting support from them, so of course they're going to condemn them.
Yeah, I think
You're not, if you get support from
I
someone,
think-
especially with how close the last election was, you're not just going to be like, oh, you're bad, so I'm just going to throw that support away and nominate you.
I think that's a good thing to do. I truly believe that Donald Trump might have gotten more voters by doing that. If you wanted to look at it in this political way, because the KKK, there's no other way to frame it. They're a hate group.
So you're saying that there would be more moderates that would be swung by him not supporting radicals than there would be radicals that would then leave. Okay.
And it's just a morally right thing to do to not support a hate group that's killed thousands, hundreds of thousands.
How many times is politics morally right? Well, let's be completely honest. Not very often.
Yeah.
But I do agree that nationalism, it can quite easily go too far. But I still don't think you can be globalist, because then it leads to relying on other countries. You should be able to support yourself by yourself in the case that you have to be isolationist. But I don't think that you should be segregating or isolating certain populations. So. With that, we're going to segue to the NBA Finals. So that's a slight switch.
Nothing more nationalistic than basketball.
I think
Nothing more American.
Nothing more American.
NBA Finals, except for maybe the World Series.
And it's kind of ironic because we're gonna have a Canadian team winning the NBA Finals.
But we're not.
Except for now. Okay. So here's a big. First of all, I wanted to talk about the NBA Finals economically.
Okay.
The NBA Finals are, for the NBA, this is huge. Having a Canadian team. A Canadian team. You have all of Canada actually caring.
Yeah.
Going against the Golden State Warriors, who, in my opinion, they're the best dynasty ever. I'm biased.
Yeah,
I'm
Captain,
extremely
I was
biased.
born in California.
Yeah. Hey, San Francisco.
It's
But-
still in California.
But it could be like a Lakers fan or something. Anyway.
Anyways.
You have what I think is the greatest dynasty ever. I mean, really the Jordan-led Bulls are the only team that can challenge it.
I think they're still ahead, but that's a different discussion.
That's a different discussion. You have arguably the Warriors who have the most jersey sales by far. You have the whole country watching and Canada watching. Economically, this finals might be one of the biggest ever. I mean, the only person beating in jersey sales is LeBron, but he wasn't in the playoffs at all. And I mean, this is big, and what we want to talk about, though, it's not the economics, that's boring. Let's talk about,
Who's gonna win?
who's going to win?
It's gonna be the Raptors, all the way. It might not be a sweep. I think the Warriors might clinch a few games, 1 and 2, just like the Bucks did. But after that, Raptors bench is gonna come in. It's just gonna be a blowout. They're gonna get another 4 wins in a row. It's gonna play out just like the
Wow.
Bucks did.
Okay, so the Raptors. If we're going down their list of good players, we have Kawhi. Who's their second best player? It changes every night. They cannot rely on a single person to be their second option.
And I think that's one of their strong points, that they have. That it's not one person who's carrying the
So
team.
you're saying it's
like
good
the
that you
Warriors.
can't lock down the second person.
The Warriors,
What I'm saying
don't have
because
one
you don't
person.
know
The Warriors
it's
don't have one person.
They have like 3 people who can score
like-
50 any given night.
I think that's one of their strong points. That they have multiple players that can say, I'm probably one of the best players on the team.
Okay, tell me this. Name an All NBA player even an All-Star this year, other than Kawhi Leonard, on the Raptors.
On the Raptors, that's
Go
not
ahead.
important to the argument.
Go ahead, tell
That's
me.
not important
Tell
to the
me.
argument.
So skill isn't important to
So
the argument.
skill is
No,
not.
okay.
Let me name the
I'm
Warriors
not
real quick. You got Kevin Durant, who's
Who's
out.
not playing? Who's not playing?
He is out for game 1.
We don't know
And
if
he's
he's coming back for game
questionable
2.
for the second
He's
game.
questionable
currently.
for game 2, 3, 4. He's questionable for the whole series.
He's questionable for the whole series, but keep listening. You have Steph Curry. Steph Curry won unanimous MVP in 2015 by himself.
Mm-hmm.
See, he was the only person to get a vote. Right? And Steph Curry in this last series versus the Blazers averaged 36.5 points, 7.25 assists, and 8.25 rebounds. A near triple-double. Draymond Green also averaged a near triple-double. You have Draymond, a second All-Star, a third All-Star if you count Kevin Durant. And then you have Klay Thompson, who's
Should have made an All-NBA team.
Yeah, should have made an All-NBA team, but that's different. You have all these guys, and you have the play of Kevon Looney, which a lot of people are sleeping on. After DeMarcus Cousins went down, Looney's been playing amazing, just filling his role as a role-playing center. You have all these guys. This team has too much depth. Quite simple.
While I agree that the Raptors may have a better bench, I still think the Warriors, if you take their starting 5 and then their 6th and maybe 7th man, they have you beaten now.
And
I think-
DeMarcus Cousins might come back, who's probably not going to start.
if
You could see him be the 6th man of that team,
if
which
it
would
was-
be insanity.
I think if it was the starting 5 against the starting 5, one game, Warriors would win hands down. But this is a potentially 7-game series. The Raptors always have the long game. They're always thinking ahead.
The
always thinking ahead?
starters.
How many series have they gotten swept in until 2 years ago?
I'm just saying, there's a lot of investment in this team. There's a lot of hype surrounding the Raptors. The people want the Raptors to win.
What does that mean? The people aren't playing basketball.
People just want the Warriors to lose. That's all they want.
I mean, yeah, that is true. No one wants to see the Warriors win again. I mean,
How is that going to affect who wins?
How does that affect who wins?
Yes.
I think if you're playing for the Warriors and no one wants you to win, does that not affect your psyche?
No, because this is their 5th straight NBA Finals.
Okay.
Look, hear me out here. This is the Warriors last year in Oracle Arena. It's in Oakland. The people of Oakland it's going to be extremely hard for them to go to another game because the simple fact is, at the Chase Center in San Francisco, the tickets are going to be way too expensive. Because the Chase Center is privately financed, which sucks. It really does. But they want to win one more for Oakland. The people of Oakland have dreaded, before these few years, they went 40 years without a championship. 40 years without a championship, and those teams, they were awful. They were truly awful. They made the playoffs, there were years where, 10, 15 straight years where they just didn't make the playoffs.
Don't disgrace my boy Mateos like that.
Oh, God. And the simple fact is that they want to win one more before they leave. That's the best way to put an ending on their stint in Oakland.
Also, sorry to cut you off, but if you want to play the KD's out card, their win percentage is pushing 900 without him and with Steph Curry in this season, so I don't think that's something that's going to be too much of a hardship for them.
I think the Raptors, they've got a lot more to lose this NBA final than the Warriors do. The Warriors came, they conquered 5 times over. They've been to the NBA Finals. They've been there. They've done that, The Raptors is the first time ever in Raptors history that they've made it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think disappointing Toronto and Canada as a whole is not something that they're looking to do. I think a lot more people are looking up to the Raptors and saying, we want them to win. And I think that morale is going to help carry them through those games.
Okay, so how exactly do the Raptors have more to lose? The Warriors, if they lose, are losing a dynasty that they have right now. The Raptors, this is the first time they've been to the finals, so expectations shouldn't be that high for a team that has no experience in the finals. And also, Canadians are used to being let down. I'm sorry to any Canadian watching, but please tell me the last time you were like ultra proud of a sports team that wasn't playing hockey.
I don't understand the unnecessary insults that we're hurling at Canadians. However, I would like to say that there are more sports in Canada than hockey, and basketball is one of them.
It's there.
And it's
It
about
doesn't
to be
mean
one
they've
of the
been
most.
good.
It's about to be one of the most popular sports in Canada. Now that the Raptors are going to the finals and they're about to win, it's going to be a Canadian legacy in the United States.
Look, the simple fact is that the Warriors are a super team, and you can easily take this team, I'm not saying starting lineup, this team, and they will win. I think they're in 6 games they're going to win this series, simply because the bench really doesn't matter in the playoffs. You have these players are playing 36, 38 minutes a game.
Yeah.
The starting lineup. So you got about 10 minutes left for the bench. About 10 to 12 minutes left for the bench. So even if you have a really good bench, I mean, you have that, was it the 2014 Hawks team? Or that
was 62 and 20?
Yeah, 62 and 20. That team had no superstar. I mean, Al Horford was their best player, who's the...
Hey, Kyle Horford.
Al Horford. Al Horford was their best player. Then then they got swept by the LeBron Cavs that had nothing. They had LeBron James and then just a bunch of players. It was the Cavs. And with that just clearly proves that star power is what drives the NBA playoffs. So it doesn't really matter if you have a better bench, because they're only playing 10 to 12 minutes a game.
I think you're underestimating the power of the bench.
I do think you're underestimating the bench, because look at the first series where you lost 2 games to the Clippers, who have the best bench in the NBA.
But who won the series?
I get that, but I'm saying that you can't just be like, bench doesn't.
Yeah, you can't.
I'm not saying bench doesn't
You're
matter at all.
underestimating the bench, and I think your emphasis on all-star power, the best players on a team leading the team, that's true. But you also got to remember the Warriors are missing one of their best players, if not their best player.
The Warriors have won 5 straight games. We're not gonna look. If we look at the whole season, right? Kevin Durant, when Kevin Durant's out and Steph Curry plays, their win percentage is about 89%. There's like 30, 36, 37. Now it's like 40 or so games, right?
Yeah.
That he's missed and Steph Curry has played in the last 2-3 years. 89% winning percentage. And yeah, they were still playing good teams. You had the Rockets, who are seen in the West as the second best team and arguably probably the 4th best team in the NBA. And without them, they won 2 games fairly, not easily, but they still won it. And then the Blazers made it to the Western Conference Finals. We can't say they're not a good team if they don't make it to the Western Conference, but they swept them. Without Kevin Durant didn't play at all.
Yeah, but the Raptors aren't the Blazers. The Raptors are the Raptors. And I think with their bench being as good as it is, Kevin Durant out, it's the Raptors' time to shine.
Look, if Kevin Durant does come back, which he might came back game 2, game 3, he might come back. We don't know. That just adds another player who can score without really trying.
If Kevin Durant comes in, game 3, game 2, I don't think we're going to see the Raptors win the series.
If you were calling sweep earlier, I mean.
So you're saying this series is resting solely on if Kevin Durant comes back?
I think so.
Look, the simple fact
I
is
get he can still make a shot when he's being guarded like this, but I don't think it's a team game.
With the Warriors, I'd even argue that Steph Curry is a better fit for that team and is just playing better.
Yeah.
So Steph Curry can lead that team. He did it. He's done it before, and he did it. Where he won a championship and went to 2. Yeah, they blew a 3-1 lead, but that doesn't mean he's not going to let that happen again. He knows what it feels like to lose a finals that awfully. He's not about to let that happen versus the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah,
the Toronto Raptors? Don't say it like that.
Also, when you say the Warriors have nothing to lose, KD's gone after this season.
I think
Let's be honest.
I think they got a lot to lose, but not as much as the Raptors. There's so
if
much.
they lose,
If you saw the game against the Bucks, there was Canadians lined up in the streets. It was so
when was the
high.
last time they won anything?
It's the first time they won anything.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, there's so much more on the line for this Canadian team than the Warriors, who have won. They've won so much. They're so complacent in their winning it is their time to lose.
Okay, so the Raptors are parading in the streets after winning the Eastern Conference Finals. What did the Warriors do after they won? They're like, okay, yeah, we're back in time. This is commonplace for them.
They're ready.
They are
I'm telling
expecting
you,
a championship.
everyone expects them to win. They're expecting a championship, and it's that mentality that's going to cause them to lose.
I wouldn't say they're expecting a championship. They know it's going to be hard. They've been here 4 times before, and they know it's difficult to win it. And the Raptors are a good team. Kawhi Leonard, he is arguably one of the best players in the NBA. If right now,
the
not
best player.
Not the best. But the simple fact is, when you look at that starting lineup and you look at the bench, the bench is better than the Warriors. I 100% agree with you. But if you look at that starting lineup, who's going to play the majority of the minutes? We can't deny that fact. The Warriors simply have so much around Steph Curry that I don't think they're... I mean, you can root for the Raptors. I mean, if I wasn't a Warriors fan, I'd want this dynasty to end too, but... I mean, I just don't see a way that that much talent can beat the Raptors. Now, if the Raptors... I mean, whoa!
Oh, yeah! Slip there, huh? You really do want the Raptors to win.
That much talent...
You done slipped.
That much talent on one team can be beat by the Raptors, who are a good team and all, but like they need another star.
A good team and all. I think... I don't know. No matter who wins this series, I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be better than. I think it's gonna be one of the best NBA finals in a long time.
Okay, just a quick thing to test Joseph's knowledge of basketball. Who is Kawhi Leonard traded for?
I don't know who he's traded for.
Exactly. Just the hard.
Okay, that's it, folks. Okay, well, we have a special edition, and we have our cameraman and special guest, Matthew Barton, who is the... he's a movie expert. There's no other way to put it. There's a movie connoisseur, one could call. And we wanted to talk about... so, Avengers Endgame, according to the latest stats, is $100 million behind Avatar in the box office, and for
the worldwide,
worldwide box
domestic.
office.
It's past it domestically, but not worldwide yet.
And it's $100 million and to pass the all-time record. And we want to talk about whether or not it's going to happen. I'm going to open the floor. Start with Matthew.
Well, first of all, whether it happens or not, I feel like it deserves. It deserves.
Oh yeah,
it.
for sure.
Now I know that's biased because Marvel is one of my favorite series, but if you think about it, they've been making these movies since 2008. Like, everything they've been doing for the last 11 years has built upon each other so we could get to this moment, so it could have the payoff. So I think it would be doing it a disjustice, or, yeah, it would dishonor it if it doesn't pass Avatar. Even if it's 2 cents over, even if it's a cent over, or a couple dollars. I mean, I think it makes sense if it got more, just because of how much it's built up and how much, it means to everybody. I mean, I can't name one person from Avatar. There's Zoe Saldana, but she's blue. That's all I know. I mean...
Yeah, I honestly don't remember that movie at all. I mean, when I first saw it, I will say the CGI captivated me. But but the only reason that movie is #1 was because it was one of the first CGI movies. If you compare it to Endgame, or any other CGI, Ready Player One, or any other CGI movie
if you
today,
think about it,
it's
CGI has really come a long way since then. I mean, we look at Jurassic Park, which came out in the 90s, and they used a combination of stop motion animation, but also CGI dinosaurs, and that looks super. Like, it still holds up. Like, that animation is still really good. And then we get on, and we get to the infamous Star Wars prequels, and there's a lot of CGI in there, lots of green screens and stuff. But you keep building on, and then we get Avatar, and that's like almost completely CGI, and that like blew people away. But now you get to Ready Player One. and you're forgetting that you're watching an animated. There's animation in it because it looks so lifelike. So
I mean,
feel
even
like
even with Endgame, you have a few scenes. I don't want to spoil it or anything,
No
but
spoilers.
you,
No
you,
spoilers.
you have a few scenes where, like, one of the larger battles, they look all real.
yeah, it looks like it's
or
all
like
put together.
this was in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. The white Avengers suits,
yeah,
the white ones, it's completely CGI.
Really?
Yep, it's completely CGI.
but it looks practical.
real. It looks real.
It looks real.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about this. So we all think Endgame's a fantastic movie. Will it pass it? It's getting taken out of some international markets, but it can still possibly do it. I hope it does it, but I mean I'm a little skeptical. But I think it might pull it out. People might realize, people might go see it again just so it can beat the record. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, as much as I'd like Endgame to surpass it globally, I think the problem is like the Avengers series and that franchise is just so it's distinctly American. You know what I mean? Like it's something that we Americans watch. If you said Avengers to someone in France, they'd kind of look at you funny. I don't think it's
Captain America.
well, yeah. It's not nearly as a globalized phenomenon as CGI was, which inspired a whole bunch of different films.
It's okay.
I really wanted to pass it. Do I think it's going to? As much as it hurts to say it, no. I feel like for the most part, ticket sales have started to decline with it. I know people bought, tickets the minute they came out. There were websites that were crashed. Like you could not buy tickets. So I think that for the majority, the bulk of the tickets have been bought already. It's now going to be people on their 4th or 5th times watching it.
Yeah.
Or, someone who hasn't seen it maybe doesn't care as much and they're going to, wait further down the line. So I want to say yes, but realistically, I feel like it's going to just be
People need to
really
remember
close.
though, with Avatar, there was a re-release of Avatar that made it 200, 300 million globally. So if that re-release wouldn't happen, this conversation wouldn't be
Right.
a thing. But Avengers Endgame isn't going to get re-released. There's no reason to
No.
do so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
At least not for another 10 years probably.
Yeah, 10
And
years.
If it gets re-released at all, it'll be another 10 years as some sort of anniversary.
that would have a anniversary for the Infinity Saga or something.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Let us know what you guys want to see next time, and we'll see you back here on AirWave.